In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about when and how to start the recruiting process, which is a pretty complicated question, but it's also the most frequent one that I'm asked when I'm working camps and recruiting events. There's not an easy answer. For most people, the earlier that you can start learning about the recruiting process, the better. When we first have kids, we set aside money to create a college fund, because obviously college is something that we want our sons or daughters to attend later on in life. And in another video, I talk a little bit about, is my son or daughter a potential college athlete? And I'll talk a little bit more about that. That's got to be driven by your son or daughter, not by the parent. But it's the parent who's got to inform themselves and educate themselves a little bit more about the recruiting process, so that they don't fall behind later on when their son or daughter does decide that they want to play collegiately. A lot of times we see student athletes in their junior year in high school and say, hey, I think I may be interested in being a college athlete. And a lot of times at that point, a lot of doors have closed because of the recruiting process and how early it's gotten. We see a lot of schools that are verbally committing 8th graders. And I understand that that's crazy to think that schools are making commitments to kids that early of an age, but that tells you a little bit about what they're looking at. They're identifying, especially in female sports, athletes at the 8th grade level that could have the potential to play collegiately. So during the middle school years, I advise parents to start to educate themselves on what needs to be happening during the high school years to have a successful recruiting strategy. They need to learn what is required from the NCAA as far as going through the clearinghouse, what classes they should be taking during the high school level, when they should be taking the ACT and SAT, which I cover in another video, and what are college coaches actually looking for. Obviously, you're here because you want to learn more about the recruiting process, and hopefully we've answered a lot of your questions in our other videos. But it's important to keep asking people who've been through the process, hey, you know, what did you learn when you went through the process? What did you do? What was successful? What wasn't? Obviously, exposure is the most important part of being recruited. What do you need to do to get that exposure for your student athlete? I can't stress enough that academics is the most important part of the recruiting process, no matter what types of schools you're looking at. Coaches want student athletes, one, obviously to be accepted into their school. Two, the higher their academics are, the more financial aid they could be eligible for. And three, they want students who are going to succeed within their program at the academic level, because it's less of an issue for them dealing with student athletes who may be struggling. So again, I advise that parents start to educate themselves once their student athlete, son or daughter, reaches the middle school level, to start to learn a little bit about what's going to be involved during the high school years.